के मुखिया होने के नाते प्रधानमंत्री सदन में आए, अपनी बात रखे, अपनी संवेदना प्रकट करे और उस पर सारे पार्टी समर्थन दे।
It's the attitude of this government is hubris, there is no other.
उनको दो काम करना है, बेटे को सेट करना है और दामाद को भेंट करना है।
उस समय के यूपीए सरकार को हम हाथ जोड़ के हम उनको मांग करते थे, पुकारते थे कि कभी कभी आप नॉर्थ ईस्ट का तरफ भी ध्यान रखिए।
So let's set up this edition of the Right Stand and debate number 1 with facts and what happened through the day in Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, where the government decided to counter every punch that was set or sent their way by the opposition with an equally stronger counter punch. In fact, going back and saying, don't forget the history when you yourself were in power. The Narendra Modi-led government facing the second no-trust motion in its last 9 years. The opposition alliance, the Indian National Developmental Inclusive Alliance, had moved a no-confidence motion against the Prime Minister and his government late July over the Manipur issue. Now, day 1 of the debate concluded today with the opposition demanding Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh's resignation. Now, Gaurav Gogoi, who moved the trust motion, began the debate and questioned why hasn't the Prime Minister visited Manipur and demanded Chief Minister Biren Singh's resignation, and also a demand that was echoed by all opposition parties. Lot of halla that happened. The BJP quick on the counter and questioned why didn't Rahul Gandhi not initiate the debate when it was mentioned that he wants to move the debate in the House. BJP slammed the UPA for neglecting Northeast region for decades and listed the vikas that unfolded under the N.D.A regime. This debate continues into Wednesday, and it is on Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, the 10th of August, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to reply to the debate, and also the floor, it will be the vote will be put, and the trust vote will go onto the floor, and we'll see who's got the numbers. Now, when we come to numbers, there is a fact: no trust motions in our history of democracy have never worked. Irrespective of coalitions, whatever of the story, have a look at this. Jawaharlal Nehru faced the motion twice in 1963, won both times. Then you had Indira Gandhi, who faced the motion 15 times and she survived all 15. Then Morarji Desai faced the motion twice but had to quit in 1979. Rajiv Gandhi faced no trust motion only once in 1987. Narasimha Rao faced 3 no-confidence motions as Prime Minister. Atal Bihari Vajpayee lost floor test in 1999 but won it in 2003. Then Narendra Modi survived no-trust motion in 2018 by 195 votes. So, if you look at our history, barring 1 or 2 occasions where the Prime Minister had to go or the no-trust motion actually survived, and that was in those coalition times. When you have absolute brute majority, is this nothing but a lost cause? Is it a lost battle that this alliance is actually fighting? That is the big question, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we ask that question? If Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the N.D.A has absolute brute majority in the Lok Sabha, they were able to get the numbers to even pass the Delhi Ordinance Bill in the Rajya Sabha, and comfortable numbers, you think they will not be able to manage a no-trust vote like this? Is the government allowing the no-trust vote just because they are confident of the numbers? Those are the issues. Let's try and understand who said what. Let's look at the majority mark. The majority mark is 272. The government's count is 365. It's 365. Opposition is at 141. Undecided are 32. इसमें से भी कुछ उधर चले जाएंगे, नहीं भी जाएंगे, कोई फर्क पड़ेगा? Is it going to make any difference? Now let's look at the undecided. The BJP has 301. The Shinde Gut, RLJP, BJD, YSRCP and others. So that makes it 365 there. And look at the opposition. 141, 51, 23, 24, 16, 6 and 12. So these 32, even if they go here, This halfway mark is 272. They are way over. So why do all of this is the big question. What is the opposition trying to prove, or specifically the Congress party and some of its allies of convenience, or this committee of convenience? What are they doing? And they are also a committee of contradiction. But let's also try and understand why this no trust vote has been moved. They have used Manipur as the base, Manipur as the ground for doing it. Now, is there any basis for this? Why we say this? There have been several. Let's try and understand why a no trust motion has been moved at this point. Let's try and take those numbers, even as the big guns go. Decoding the opposition strategy. The opposition knows they don't have the numbers in the Lok Sabha. But what is it that they want to do? Do they want to create, they don't want Manipur debate under Rule 176. But no trust motion is to force the Prime Minister to speak on Manipur. And Rule 167. Opposition wants to mount the pressure on the BJP to sack Manipur CM N. Biren Singh. But Biren Singh, in his show of strength, has stood there very, very strongly, and there is a very strong majority support for Biren Singh. But, so this is the opposition strategy. What is the government trying to say? The government is saying, let parliament function, let us show the absolute brute majority, and we'll also show the chinks and how shallow this cobbled up alliance is. No confidence motion among the opposition is the first attack. The Prime Minister, who slammed this entire bloc of convenience, and he said voting in the Rajya Sabha was a semi-final of 2024. Corruption and appeasement, quit I.N.D.I.A. So he's turned quit India and saying corruption, appeasement, parivarwad, sab quit India. Alliance of corrupt and arrogance. Hard hitting. UPA is like an assembled unit of disjointed parts. So these are the attacks, and this is what the Prime Minister, did to rev up some of the ministers who then took the attack on the floor of the House. Prime Minister was not there on the floor of the House. So these are the messages that have gone in. Let's also listen in to what Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his address to the party MPs said, where he congratulated the Rajya Sabha members for the semi-final win in the voting for the Delhi Services Bill. Listen into what he had to say.
कईयों के मन में प्रश्न है कि अविश्वास प्रस्ताव आया क्यों? न संख्या है, न सदन में बहुमत है, और फिर भी सदन में इस प्रस्ताव को लाया क्यों गया? 30 साल के बाद देश में पूर्ण बहुमत के साथ बनी हुई सरकार को जिस गति से काम किया है, उसमें फिर से एक बार विश्वास प्रकट करें। आज यहां ये भी बात कही गई कि आप चौकीदार नहीं, भागीदार हैं। माननीय अध्यक्ष महोदया, मैं गर्व के साथ कहना चाहता हूं, हम चौकीदार भी हैं, हम भागीदार भी हैं, लेकिन हम आपकी तरह सौदागर नहीं हैं, ठेकेदार नहीं हैं। न हम सौदागर हैं, न हम ठेकेदार हैं, हम भागीदार हैं, देश के गरीबों के दुख के भागीदार हैं।
Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP with us, Tehseen Poonawalla, Political Analyst, and Nalin Mehta, Group Consulting Editor, also with us. Namaste, Jai Hind to the lady and the gentleman. Let me first start with Nalin Mehta, because if Tehseen Poonawalla and Sanju Verma get into their elements, Nalin, आपका talk time वैसे ही chop हो जाएगा. So let me start with you and ask you this: what's the thought process behind this no confidence motion? Is it just to bring the Prime Minister into Parliament and get him to talk about Manipur?
So it's very clear, Anand, the opposition never had the numbers for a no confidence motion. They wanted the Prime Minister to come and speak on Manipur, and the BJP didn't oblige. They found the no confidence motion as a roundabout way to ensure that the Prime Minister speaks on issues around Manipur, because that's what many of them were supposed to raise. But in today's debate, at least on the evidence of many of the speakers that I saw from the opposition, barring Tarun Gogoi, I did not see that much about Manipur. I saw people speaking on a whole host of issues. But fundamentally, this is They thought it's a way to get the Prime Minister to engage with it. But it may be a double whammy because in a straight-on contest, it's also giving the Prime Minister an opportunity to respond with the narrative of the BJP to set the narrative ahead of 2024.
Tehseen Poonawalla, there are a lot, I don't say you, but there are a lot of people who tend to turn around and troll us as Godi sometimes. आज कांग्रेस पार्टी गोदी की तरह ट्रोल हो गई in parliament and not a lot of people liked it.
So Namaskar Anand, thank you for having me on the show. And just one factual correction to Nalin, for whom I have a lot of respect, and I'd always keep quiet if Nalin speaks because I take him very seriously. It was Gaurav Gogoi, not Tarun Gogoi. Tarun Gogoi was his father. Just a technical error, but
My bad there, Tehseen.
No. But I know it was a slip of the tongue.
No,
but let me make the
with due respect to Tarun Gogoi ji, another example of Parivarwad there, a son who had nothing to do in politics, studied abroad, came back in and was retrofitted into Assam politics. But yes, it was Gaurav Gogoi, and he did hold his ground. We have to credit him that he did hold his ground and his own as he moved the no trust motion. Yes, please.
Okay. And in fact, I told Gaurav just 3-4 days ago that he is a very good speaker and he needs to speak more. So, and I don't want to get into this whole debate of media. Let's understand a couple of things. We as citizens, and I as a Congress supporter who was against the BJP, want my Prime Minister to speak inside Parliament to answer questions. I don't want him to do man ki baat in his speech. I want him to answer questions. Now, the most honorable Prime Minister answered us on Manipur. He spoke outside Parliament. Why can't he say the same thing and answer us inside Parliament? That's point number one. Why do we want a Prime Minister to address us? Because I know that the honorable Home Minister said, I am ready to speak on every issue. There are two reasons we want a Prime Minister to answer us. Number one, Biren Singh had to have his tweets deleted, kind of fuel that he put in fire. And he's, quite frankly, Anand, Biren Singh has been an embarrassment and should have gone long time back. But more importantly than that, when the Honorable Home Minister went to Manipur after the whole incident happened, this is towards the end of May, 29th May odd, and the incidents that we are talking about were 3rd, 4th, 5th May. Biren Singh obviously did not brief the Home Minister about the women that were paraded, not just two. He said many women have been paraded and the other things that happened. Otherwise, I'm sure the Home Minister would have made sure action taken place. So obviously, he didn't brief the Home Minister, or the Home Minister failed. You can take your pick in which. I don't think the Home Minister failed. I think Biren Singh didn't brief him enough. Number three, there have been severe allegations on the Manipur police, the Manipur Rifles, which is the Manipur police, of non-cooperating with the army. If they would have cooperated on the 3rd with the army, that incident on 4th would not have happened. And the army's put this out. And even today, Manipur police have now filed cases against the army. Therefore, the Prime Minister, this involves a lot of agencies, needs to speak. Lastly, the Chief Minister has gone on record saying weapons are coming in through Myanmar, which China is supplying, which means it's the Prime Minister's domain. Now, I don't, for 1 minute, let's leave the politics of Mehti cookie out. All I want as an Indian citizen is my Prime Minister address me at a time when my country is grieving. If my Prime Minister can go to America, Australia, Egypt, which is great, and I'm proud that he went, why can't he talk inside the temple of democracy? Why can't he answer tough questions? The tough questions is what he needs to answer specifically. His rhetoric, Aapka naam Gandhi kyun hai, Nehru kyun hai, is not what I want from my Prime Minister. He's my Prime Minister. I oppose him, I want. How else do I get him in Parliament? Since Parliament has started, how much has the Prime Minister attended? Let's be honest. And that's why I want my Prime Minister to come. So we have no choice but to call of this so that the Prime Minister speak. Do I know that the Prime Minister is going to have the last word? Yes. Do I know he's going to blame everyone from Nehru to Rajiv Gandhi ji for it? Yes. But at least you'll get him to talk. What else does a desperate opposition do?
So you agree that the opposition is desperate? You agree that the opposition is
in
losing the
national interest.
Yeah,
in national interest.
You agree that the opposition is losing the no trust vote.
But
you also believe that you also agree that this was a strategy to get the Prime Minister on the floor of the House and ask him to and get him to respond. Sanju Verma.
Okay, Anand, I heard Tehseen very carefully. I just have a couple of points to make. I think you gave a brilliant introduction where you said as far as numbers go, the BJP-led I.N.D.A is far ahead at 365. The opposition is at 141. And Anand, even if I have to be generous and give the opposition another 9 seats from the TRS/BRS, still their tally would not go up to beyond 150. And the majority number stands at 272. 272 ki bajaye BJP has 365 in its kitty. And currently in the no confidence motion, if there is one thing that matters, It is the political arithmetic, and anybody who says otherwise is fooling himself or herself. You know, I will just say a couple of things based on what Tehseen said. First and foremost, under Article 75 of the Constitution, the Prime Minister is the head of the cabinet, and he decides through his cabinet and his cabinet secretariat how to allocate responsibilities. Amit Shah, by virtue of being the Union Home Minister, is the man with the domain expertise in terms of the Manipur issue, and he has openly told repeatedly, he's reached out to senior Congress leaders like Mallikarjun Kharge, he's reached out to leaders from the TMC, and yesterday he actually said that on the 11th of August, I'm willing to take up any matter pertaining to Manipur which the opposition has concerns on. Point number 3, even if you look at the allocation of business rules of 1961, they clearly say that the Prime Minister Narendra Modi in this case, he will decide when to speak, whether to speak outside the parliament, whether to speak on the floor of the parliament, and for how long to speak. The Prime Minister is not going to be dictated by a Tehseen Poonawala or a Sanju Verma, or even for that matter by a very consummate anchor called Anand Narasimhan. And now the most important point. You know, look at the entire narrative of the opposition, be it demonetization, Ram Mandir, fuel prices, farm laws, Pegasus, Rafale. Each time the government has said we are willing to have a discussion on some or the other pretext, opposition ka nara raha hai, scoot, shoot and then scurry away. And I want to say one thing to Tehseen. Yes, Manipur is a cocktail of various issues. It's not just about cookies versus mighties. It's not about the hills versus the plains. It is not just about Modi government's unrelenting attack on narco-terrorism or on the illegal poppy cultivation which has taken over the hill areas of Manipur, and wrongfully so. I think ever since Manipur became a state, Anand, and I'll be very quick with this, that your audience needs to know. On the 21st of January 1972, Manipur became a full-fledged bona fide state. And I can tell you with full confidence and responsibility that in the last 53 years, barring the last 3 months, you know, in the last 7 or 6 years of the BJP ruling Manipur in the state and Narendra Modi at the center, these last 6 years have been the most peaceful for Manipur ever since it became a state. Because don't forget, the BJP came to power in 2017 in Manipur. और मुझे एक बात बताइए आनंद, please, I'll take 10 seconds more. The Assam Accord was signed in 1985. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. The Mizo Accord was signed in 1986. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. The Tripura Accord was signed in 1988. Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister. The Bodo Accord and Karbi Anglong Accords were signed in 1993 and 1991 respectively. But none of these accords, the promises to indigenous Assamese or indigenous Mizos or indigenous Tripuris or indigenous Bodo people were not fulfilled. That work was done by the Narendra Modi dispensation.
See, I tell you what, my point is, this is what you're doing.
On the northeast,
Sanjuji,
on Modi's outreach of the northeast, please don't fool yourself. Modi has done more for the northeast
Sanjuji,
than the Congress can ever
please
dream
yield
of.
now. Please yield. This is what is important, Sanjuji. The fact is, the opposition keeps. This is where the opposition succeeds, and Nalin, it's important. The opposition succeeds in dragging the government onto the turf where it wants to fight the battle. And the opposition has been able to consistently get the government to come to the turf, despite the efforts sometimes by the government to try and steer clear of that path and, shift the theatre of action. The opposition has to be credited for this. See, the idea is that if you do not want to talk about Manipur, then you got to talk about something else. But the fact is, the opposition has been able to force the government to come and talk, so much so that an erudite national spokesperson of the BJP is, despite saying that we've got a yeoman record about Manipur and what we have done in the northeast, has to come and defend the government on Manipur. That's exactly is the opposition strategy, Nalin. And this is where the government has perhaps missed a trick. The government will you say that the government has failed to see that the opposition by hook or crook or by twisting or turning, however it is, despite being in such small numbers on the floor of the House in Parliament, has been able to get its will on the floor, because eventually the Prime Minister will have to touch upon Manipur because the no trust motion vote has been brought on Manipur. So,
Anand, Manipur is something that concerns it deeply concerns a whole lot of people across India, not just those in the northeast or in Manipur itself because of the tyranny of distance. It is something that ought to be debated on the floor of the House. And it's perfectly legitimate in a democracy to demand a debate on it and to have a debate on it. In fact, a debate should be welcome, and what the Home Minister says would be very welcome on the floor of the House. Now, the fact that it has not been spoken about in the past. The past is a foreign country. The past is, while the BJP may be right in pointing out factually that in certain points of time in the past when violence may have been of a greater magnitude or of a similar magnitude, it wasn't debated on the floor of the House necessarily, or the Prime Minister didn't speak. The fact of the matter is that was also a different time. Today we are in the age of 24/7 media, 24/7 Twitter and YouTube and so on. When a tragedy or when an atrocity like what's happened in Manipur happens, I think it's perfectly fair to demand a debate. Now, I'm without taking a side on, there is a BJP government on the ground, there's a BJP government in the centre. I think questions are legitimate and the government should be able to answer them on the floor of the House. The fact, if the government has good answers, it should give it on the floor of the House.
No, but the fact is that the government is ready to give the answer. The government is ready to give the answer. It had always been ready to give the answer. And it was the Union Home Minister who said, I will stand there and answer and let's have a discussion under Rule 176, if I remember correctly, or 167, that it will be a 2.5-hour discussion. It's the adamance of the opposition that they want to get the Prime Minister to speak about it, and then they will get by hook or crook their will. This adamance of the opposition, why wasn't it there in the past when a 7% vote share led government was formed in Manipur? When there were months and months of blockade, why was this adamance of the opposition not witnessed for me?
I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't there earlier, the sheer, the bloody-mindedness on insisting on this demand is because the opposition thinks or believes that on this time it's on the offensive, it feels it is on the front foot, it feels it is an issue on which it can put the BJP on the back foot, rightly or wrongly. I think that's the belief. They also believe after the Bharat Jodo Yatra, the Congress believes that Rahul Gandhi is on the upswing. They feel that they want to...
It's not just about, Lalit, it's not just about what the Congress believes.
It's the leader for 2024. It's purely about that.
It's how the BJP's approach has been when it is in opposition, and how the BJP's approach has been. It's been belligerent at times, but it's not been belligerent at all times. The BJP with brute majority in government has not been able to tell the opposition, sit down, you want to talk on Manipur, talk on 176, otherwise no talking. Your no confidence motion can go fly a kite. Because this is how the Congress spoke to the opposition in the past. You want business in the opposition, you want... Where was it? Is it there in our consciousness that there was a government picked by the Congress party with 7% vote share in Manipur? On whose right? And was this not a poppy issue in Manipur in the past? These are all realities. Himanta Biswa Sarma has spoken on this entire matter and developments in Parliament today. Just quickly want to play that out.
If you see that all this has happened during the Congress regime, I want to clearly state that because of the wrong policy adopted by Congress party during the formative years, today Northeastern state is not able to resolve various disputes that exist in our region from the time of we attaining the freedom. They have created a situation. They have put provision in the constitution. They have created safeguard in the constitution, either which is creating various issues, various problems among the communities, either or they have not done something which should have been done in very beginning to resolve the conflict.
So Himanta Biswa Sarma passing on the blame squarely on the shoulders of the Congress party, saying all this bawal is because of what should have been done in the past or what you did not do in the past. So that's what he's saying. Meanwhile, there's another development in the upper house, ladies and gentlemen. Need to bring you up to speed on this. Now, look at this. This is what Jairam Rameshji has tweeted. Jairam Rameshji has tweeted. Jairam Rameshji has said that today at 1300 hours, the floor leaders of India parties in the Rajya Sabha submitted a privilege motion against Leader of the House Piyush Goyal for addressing the opposition as all of them traitors. Nothing less than an apology from him on the floor of the House when it is an order will do is what he has posted. And then thereafter, there was an addendum. I just want to also show this. He said the India parties walked out of the Rajya Sabha today for the rest of the day because of continued refusal of Modi government to allow an immediate discussion on Manipur on the basis of mutually negotiated motion, and the continued refusal of Leader of the House Piyush Goyal to apologize for the highly objectionable, completely unacceptable remarks he made against the leaders of the India parties. But did Piyush Goyal say traitors? Listen to what happened.
For the suspension of Mr. Derek O'Brien for the remainder of this session for continuously and willfully disturbing the proceedings of the House, for disobeying the chair and for continuously creating disturbance in the House. Respected sir, with your permission, I move for a motion that Shri Derek O'Brien be suspended from the services of the House for the remaining part of the current session for his unruly behavior unbecoming of a member of Rajya Sabha today, the 8th of August 2023, shouting slogans from the well of the House, thereby disregarding the authority of the chair, and from his chair disregarding every instruction of the chair, and bringing disrepute and shame to this august House.
The other portion there, and we'll come back to that in just a bit, that's another aside, that he did call the opposition ghamandiya. That means arrogant. But there is no record of him actually calling them traitors. So that's the counter the government is making. But Sanju Verma, quick response, and then Tehseen. I've just got 2 minutes, so one minute each, please. When I interrupt, please yield. Yes, Sanju Verma.
Okay. You know, Anand, I just have this to say. Politics mein jo jeeta wahi Sikandar, and you know the opposition has been saying why not remove Biren Singh, why not impose Article 356. My limited point is Nehru imposed Article 356 7 times, Indira Gandhi 49 times, P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh together 21 times, and Rajiv Gandhi 6 times, a total of 83 times. Narendra Modi is not like a Rajiv or an Indira. Narendra Modi and Atal Bihari Vajpayee together have imposed Article 356 till now only 9 times. My limited point is Article 356 has to be used very sparingly and judiciously, and for people to say N. Biren Singh ko hata do, and because the Modi government did not do that, that is also one of the key reasons for moving the no confidence motion. That argument is a whole lot of hogwash and does not hold water. And just 10 seconds more.
Ma'am, I really don't have the 10 seconds. Please
10 seconds more.
Please yield. I have to be fair to Tehseen also. Thank you. Yes, Tehseen. Thank you.
Look, you can blame everybody from Nehru ji to Rajiv ji to Manmohan Singh ji. The fact is, you're in government. The buck stops at you. Anand, if tomorrow your show does not get ratings, you can't blame the former anchors. That's why you're successful, because you get the rating. The buck stops at you. Prime Minister Modi and Biren Singh should have said, don't elect us. We are going to blame everything. That's point number one. Point number two, we want a discussion under Rule 267 in Rajya Sabha, which every other vice president and chairman agreed to, except this vice president. 176
Rule 267 has been used only 11 times in post-independent India's history. Only on 11 occasions, Rule 267 has been used.
Anand, this is my
so
time.
do not lie.
Please, Sanju ji, please. Thank
No,
you.
I'm just correcting him.
Please.
Rule 267 is used very sparingly.
Okay, please, let him make his point. Yeah.
Just Bhairo Singh Shekhawat ji allowed it 4 times. Hamid Ansari allowed it 4 times. Shankar Dayal Sharma allowed it 4 times. I don't know why she's saying 11 times. All these vice presidents. Please check your records.
Right. But my point is, at the end of the day, we'll have to see what the Prime Minister says. He'll have the last word. How much of it is focused on Manipur and how much of it is further on decimating, demolishing and questioning this entire construct of the opposition. We'll have to wait and watch. But for the moment, thank you for a fiery debate. Thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's a fantastic conversation that I've had with Vivek Agnihotri ji ahead of the release of the Kashmir Files Unreported. Do stay with us.
Go Power.
एक मिनट माने सुधे प्लीज बैठिए प्लीज
बैठिए, बैठिए। नो कॉन्फिडेंस पे चर्चा नहीं करना चाहते आप? बैठिए, मैं बताता हूं आपको। माननीय सदस्यगण, अब प्लीज, माननीय सदस्यगण, आपको पता है कि लोकसभा और राज्यसभा टीवी को मिलाकर संसद टीवी कर दिया है, ठीक है ना? एक मिनट, पहले संसद टीवी नहीं था तो लोकसभा लाइव होता था और राज्यसभा अलग से लाइव होता था। आपने कोई विशेष ध्यान में डाला है, मैं उसको संज्ञान में लूंगा। आप एक मिनट, अधिरंजन जी प्लीज, एक मिनट। प्लीज, मैंने व्यवस्था दे दी है। बंद हो गया।
माननीय अध्यक्ष जी,
शुरू हो गया। सीट पे जाओ।
सर आपकी इजाजत हो तो मैं यहां से बोलना चाहता हूं सर। अध्यक्ष महोदय, मुझे लगता था कि अविश्वास प्रस्ताव पर राहुल जी बोलेंगे, कांग्रेस के मित्र बोलेंगे और कोई बहुत बड़ा विषय होगा जिसके आधार पर कि रूल्स का फायदा उठाते हुए
माननीय सदस्य ने पूरी बात कही है, ऐसे नहीं चलेगा, प्लीज बैठिए।
इसके बाद राहुल जी भी नहीं बोल पाएंगे और कोई अपोजिशन का आदमी नहीं बोल पाएगा। मैंने धैर्यपूर्वक सुना है, आप मुझे धैर्यपूर्वक सुनिए।
निशिकांत जी,
अध्यक्ष महोदय, अध्यक्ष महोदय, फिर ये नहीं चलेगा हाउस। यदि वो हल्ला करेंगे ये हाउस नहीं चलेगा, ये हाउस नहीं चलेगा, ये हाउस नहीं चलेगा।
एक प्लीज, एक मिनट प्लीज, प्लीज 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 प्लीज, आपको मैंने अलाउ नहीं किया है, प्लीज। माननीय सदस्यगण, माननीय सदस्यगण, ये महत्वपूर्ण डिबेट है और महत्वपूर्ण डिबेट
The Kashmir files, when he started it and when he came up with it, there was a lot of controversy, skepticism, but it turned up to not just become one of the biggest blockbusters of the year 2022, but the biggest eye-opener that perhaps shook the conscience of a sleeping nation. The Kashmir files unreported promises to take that story further. Now, just on the cusp of having that conversation with Vivek Agnihotri ji comes this big development where those files which even the court said we are not going to open, now the Sarkar is saying we are going to finally open.
Yeah.
So when things start happening, they all start happening together. It just looks like this is the right time. Vivek ji, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. See, there was a dialogue in Kashmir files. When I had written it, so Mr. Anupam Kher had to speak it. He said, "इसका क्या मतलब है? What does it mean?" वो डायलॉग ये था, हो रहा है, हो रहा है, हो रहा है, कुछ चीज़ें होती हैं पर उसी वक्त दिखती नहीं है. And this was my faith and belief that ultimately justice will prevail. And this was prophetic line, but Kashmir files unreported. See, can I explain in 1 minute the background so that people understand? See, what happened? The issue of Kashmir was not raised in 32 years because of political compulsions. You know that. Because we have a secular vote bank and stuff like that. Let's not get into details. But there were lots of agencies and institutions of democracy were involved in keeping it undercover. Nobody expected this kind of film to come. So it came from nowhere. And people think nowhere, but we worked for 4 or 5 years. So when the film came, it started conversation not only in India but all over the world. In whichever way, somebody saying good, bad, right, wrong, propaganda, vulgar, dirty, filthy, whatever they want to call, but there were conversations. And that made lot of young people and magazines and newspapers to research on this subject. कि चलो हम भी सच क्या पता करते हैं. So a consciousness changed. It's not that the intelligence agencies and governments don't know about it. And that also pushed, and this I've just come back from Kashmir, I'm telling you in black and white very honestly, that slowly in last 1 year also made lot of young teenagers in Kashmir Valley to research and figure out. Now the problem is anybody who was born after 90 did not have any idea about, like I don't have any idea how Britishers were here. But if you go and research, then you see photos, something, then these young breed of Kashmiri Muslims, they started realizing, oh my God, Kashmiri Pandits actually used to live here. You know, they actually used to live here. And they actually don't live here anymore. What is the reason that they were there on one day and they are not here on this day when it is their original Hindu land? And that also changed consciousness of Kashmir. And I'm telling you, trust me on this. I mean, beyond doubt, I'm telling you this. A third thing what happened, Kashmir files unreported, we have been working for quite some time and we have been showing it to a lot of influencers, not Instagram influencers, real policy influencers and media and very important people, intelligence and this thing. That also for the first time made the authorities also realize that, come on, government says we don't have evidence. Supreme Court has thrown these poor Kashmiri Pandits out saying, sorry, it's too late, there is no evidence. But these buggers have so much of evidence. So what, when it comes out, then what? It will put everybody in a very difficult situation. And Mr. Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, I know very well that they are very passionate about Kashmir issue. You know, Modi ji has been passionate for a very, very long time. So yesterday, 9 o'clock, we launched at an event in Mandi House, this thing. And Justice Neelkant Ganjuji's daughter was also present over there. And I said, kya chahiye aapko? She said, all I want is that the justice for my father should be done. And within 15 minutes, we received this news that the first case, I had an idea something is going to happen, but the first case was picked up as Justice Neelkant Ganju. This is divine justice.
Yes, it is. And you said it well, that this is divine justice. But before we get into the story of why even the courts who wanted to take suo motu cognizance of certain incidents. No, but I'm just saying courts who sit on a Saturday to grant bail to an activist actually didn't want to look back into these cases which haven't got justice. Why is it? Whose fault is it? Is it you? Can we blame it on the system, or can we say somewhere perhaps Hindu groups, Kashmiri Hindus, also didn't take the fight to the level that they should have? I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah. So suppose your house is on fire, or any building is on fire. What's the first thing shopkeepers do? They want to run to a safe place. Then they like to see what is left. Then they say how to rebuild our life. Then their children, how to educate them, and so it took them a lot of time to rebuild. But at the same time, activists were working, and they went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court threw them out, not once but thrice. Do you know that? I think 3 times, if I am not wrong. 3 times Supreme Court said, sorry, there are no evidences. It is not the victim's job to collect evidence. It's like, tell me something, okay, how vicious, sorry, maafi cha. I mean, how failed our judiciary is in spirit and concept. When a woman is raped and she goes and say, somebody has raped me, suo motu, you have to file a FIR, right? It doesn't mean that somebody is raped and there is no evidence, or there is no perpetrator or rapist, then you will say, no, rape never happened. No, this is the law of the land. Now, in case of Kashmir, there are so many women who have been raped. Okay, so the Supreme Court failed to take suo motu. They are forget about man, women, Hindu and Muslim, take the religion politics out. Justice Neelkant Ganju was a judge of Jammu and Kashmir High Court who was shot in the broad daylight, whose photographs and videos are available, where Yasin Malik has claimed that he has killed him, where the local netizens have given interviews to media saying, yes, in front of our eyes he was killed, and I have interviewed his family, brothers, sisters and everybody, and I have all the evidences of that. When we can show it in a film, all the truth, how on what basis Supreme Court? Didn't Supreme Court feel like giving justice to the family of their own colleague? It's a failed system.
Is it a failed system, or is it that one side of the narrative holds greater sway, perhaps coercion or convincing powers to impress upon certain important bodies and minds in our country, that they hold sway over those minds and they tell them how to think, how to act, and what to think and what to act upon? Now,
okay,
is that fair, or is
there was a line in the film which says government किसी की भी हो, system तो हमारा है. उसको लोग generally memes बनाते हैं, troll करने के लिए use करते हैं. That was not the purpose. It's a much deeper philosophy, deeper politics to it. See, terrorism now is a full-fledged profitable industry. The whole world acknowledges, right from CIA to KGB to RAW, everybody acknowledges that terrorism is an industry. Like mafia was an industry, drug trafficking is an industry. Similarly, armed terrorism is an industry. Now, in today's time, they are not going to, terrorism you see with guns is going down. What is happening? They have now infiltrated the systems. Not in India, everywhere. In America, the chaos which is happening is because of the Democrats' stupidity, they've infiltrated the system. Same thing is happening, has happened in India. Whether it's media, not you, but in lots of places, in media, in schools, colleges and universities, in police, in bureaucracy, professors, judiciary I won't say because they'll put me behind the bars, but something things seem as if they are against the common interest of common citizens, but anyway, I won't go there. But they have infiltrated the system. And that's how they are fighting an info war, a cyber war, a legal war with their own people. Tell me one thing, Article 370 petition recently, it's being heard on urgent basis. It's heard with passion. It's heard as if this is where the life depends. And they are decided to give a very quick judgment also. Before hearing Article 370 petition, don't you think it was a moral obligation of Supreme Court to first figure out what is the connection between genocide and abrogation of 370? Without understanding genocide, how will you take a decision on this? Right? So, I would request Chief Justice of India, Shri Chandrachud ji, that he is going to retire soon. So, before retirement, he should do one thing of great dharma, of great righteousness. If he believes in Gita, then he should do something which he should leave a legacy behind for his grandchildren to be proud of, which is he can call me, I can give Chandrachud ji all the evidences of the women who say I have been molested, I have been raped, or my dignity was compromised, my honor was compromised. People who are saying my father was cut into 50 pieces, women who are saying that I was raped not once but many times. If a woman is saying I was raped, do you think Supreme Court or anybody has a right to say, no, you were not raped and sorry, give me an evidence, right? They cannot say that. I will give all these. This will create a basis for Honorable Chief Justice Chandrachud ji to do a suo motu cognizance of this, and then he can reopen. If he reopens it, two things are going, sorry Anand, I'm talking.
No, please go ahead.
Two things are going to happen. Number one, you will prove to the world that in India, we will give justice to the victim. Second thing, what will happen is that this will also, if he punishes, and all the terrorists are alive, there's sabse nahi hai sare ke sare samne ghum hi rahe aapke, and all the politicians of Kashmir who were in nexus with them, who encouraged, nurtured, promoted, financed them, they are also all alive, living in Gupkar Road in billion-dollar kotis. If you punish all these people, okay, and especially the Chief Minister, who was directly responsible for this, Dr. Farooq Abdullah, and Muftis, it will set a precedence for these communal riots and genocides not to happen in the future. But every time we have protected these communal riots, that's why India is still suffering from communal tension and conflict. So I think Justice Chandrachud ji can do once in a century kind of a great punya ka kaam. If he looks at Kashmir Unreported, just 7 episodes, and opens the case suo motu.
हो रहा है, हो रहा है, हो रहा है.
हो रहा है, मेरा विश्वास है. और Chandrachud ji, he sounds very, very liberal and very inclusive person. I'm sure he should be able to do it.
How is Kashmir Files Unreported? How is it taking the story further? What is it that you're going to tell us here?
Okay, so you can call it the prequel.
Prequel.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like sometimes what happens. See, our original idea was to do this documentary.
Yeah, because you did a lot of research, isn't it? 4-5 साल आपने अभी बोला, but I know कि आपके पास इतना पड़ा है कि इस film में I couldn't even say half of what I wanted to say.
Yeah. So when I started this research, I generally put it on Twitter. Okay, if I have to make this documentary, what should I call it? Then Dimple Kaul wrote to me saying, lots of people responded. She said Kashmir Unreported. Since then, we were stuck with this name. But then we said India does not have documentary culture. People generally don't like to consume. What if we say the emotional side of the story, to tell the emotional side of the story? So we decided to use the film as soft power to go and influence the world policy makers, which we did very successfully. So we made the film first. But after we made the film, some random same I told you system हमारा है, infiltrators of terrorism industry, then they started saying नहीं साहब ये तो झूठ है. And these are exactly the same people who were against abrogation of Article 370. These are exactly the same people who say Afzal Guru was not a terrorist. These are exactly the same people who are part of that. So I have reasons to believe they are part of the terrorism industry. Why would they protect them otherwise? So these people then started using international media and saying कि ये तो propaganda है, सच नहीं है, दूसरी side की story कहाँ है. Terrorism में terrorist की story क्या होती है? कुछ नहीं होती. He's evil, kill him. That's it. So we said, okay, for the next generations, let this become a modern literature. So we have put all, or not all, but most key elements of our research together in 7 parts, which is coming on 11th on Z5. And it will not only tell you the tragic tales and stories of the victims from their own mouth. But also it will tell you why Kashmir is so important to us and why Kashmir is so important to terrorists. This is one angle nobody has explained till date. So this will explain why Kashmir is so critical for the enemies of India.
So, and that perhaps you believe should give perspective to this entire war and the entire exodus that happened.
Oh, yeah.
Will there also be enough for people to believe that it is fair to not just call it an exodus of the Kashmiri Hindus, but also the exodus that was triggered by a genocide of the Kashmiri? Because a lot of people do not want to agree that there was even a genocide in our country, and that too in Kashmir.
Okay, don't call it genocide.
In independent India.
Don't call it genocide. Call it anything you feel like, but it was not exodus. Okay, you can call it near genocide, like genocide, or coin a term. I don't care. Holocaust was a term coined, right? So you can say anything. But anyway, what I'm saying is it was not exodus.
It was not an exodus.
No.
They were forced to go.
Exodus happens when there is a flood, or there is a heat wave, or there is no job. You know, when the laborers were traveling during COVID, that's called exodus. Exodus is when you leave for a certain reason. But when somebody is killing you and raping you and murdering you and you leave the place, it's not called exodus. I don't think that is the definition of exodus.
So they actually fled the place. They had to run away.
And if you go by United Nations 10 points, or I think 10 major points, what defines a genocide, then all 10 points exist: othering the person, or sending them notices to leave, killing them, raping them, taking away their jobs, burning their properties. All those 10 points, on all 10 counts, it's a genocide. Even UN has recognized it as near genocide. They've used the word, it's near genocide. They are not being able to call it genocide in the lack of evidence. Correct? And the government of India, they kept telling government of India never provided evidence to UN to declare it genocide. If I were a smart government of India, I would use it to further my branding and my cause and use it as.
But Vivekji, one of my final questions, two questions. One is that if the court say there is lack of evidence, somebody's moved court and saying reopen the file, reopen the cases, court says evidence nahi hai. But in the last 9 years, has the current government given its disposition, given its abrogation of Article 370, and the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was a pracharak, he's been there doing seva and all that Jhanda march, everything has happened. Why haven't they said, no, we'll take suo motu cognizance of this and provide evidence? Abrogation को तो 4 साल हो गए, तो वो evidences अभी तक क्यों नहीं आए? Why is the government not come out and said, no, here is the evidence? It's like
government has done
central administration है Jammu and Kashmir में.
देखिए, government has done what government can do at this point at a very fast pace. For example, Yasin Malik is in jail. It's a judicial matter. But government and I.N.D.I.A has said, no, we want him to be hanged. We want the most rarest of the rare punishment for him, which is capital punishment, death. Okay, which is within the government's power. Similarly, if you see 2 cases of Bitta Karate and Air Force officer killing was suo motu opened in J&K High Court. That's one major thing government has done. Then, because Supreme Court failed to do this, and we have been petitioning with the government that you come, there was no way out. One didn't know how government can do anything about it because it's a judicial matter now. So yesterday what Narendra Modi government has done is very exceptional thing, and that way Mr. Narendra Modi is a smart, clever man. He knows how to work his way around. And what they have done is, very smartly, they have asked Kashmiri Pandits and everybody to send proofs, evidence, their testimonies, whatever they have at a certain address and number, and everything will be kept secret. So once government has collected that data and information, see, what government does not have are testimonies. I have testimonies.
So you are providing that and putting it out there.
So we have testimonies, government doesn't have. But with this, they will have our testimonies as well as other testimonies also, and that will build a very strong case, which I hope should not happen after Chandrachud ji retires. He should do it himself. Otherwise, people will say that Chief Justice of India, Chandrachud, failed to give justice. I hope he does not fail and he passes.
So हो रहा है, collection of evidence, testimonies, everything is coming.
दिख नहीं रहा है पर हो रहा है.
दिख नहीं रहा है पर हो रहा है. Final question, आपको लोगों ने बहुत कुछ कहा. प्रोपोगेंडिस्ट कहा, अपॉर्चुनिस्ट कहा, सब कुछ कहा, बट कुछ लोगों का ये भी कहना है कि आप इसमें कमर्शियल वैल्यू ढूंढ रहे हैं. That's your interest. Your interest is not the real welfare, well-being of the Kashmiri Pandits and justice for them. How would you want to react?
Well, it's good you ask that. I mean, it's such a stupid thing. I don't want to react. That's why I don't react. Otherwise, you know, I'm sharp with words. I can react like this, but it's because it's such a below standard. So let me explain to you. If I had money in my mind, first of all, people don't understand how film business works. The biggest beneficiary is Z out of the film, not me. Okay, I'm a very small contributor. So whatever money we earned from the film, we reinvested in making a film which nobody in this world will make, called The Vaccine War.
Yeah.
Correct? Nobody. Nobody will make a film on India's greatest scientific achievement, because vaccine, everybody thinks big industries, serum and biotech, they are manufacturing and distribution companies, but it's been made by the women scientists of India after a lot of sacrifice. So we invested in that. It's a very risky project. We can just be on the street tomorrow. We can be absolutely bankrupt and out. Second thing is, if I had to make money, why am I emotionally investing in all these things? Why do I have to create? First of all, I would have made Kashmir Files 2, Part 2. Every single studio today in front of you, you can test it. You call any studio in Bombay, call any star in Bombay and tell them Vivek met me last night and he was saying he wants to make Kashmir Files 2. They'll come to you with 200 crore, 300 crore. They are after my life. In fact, I run away from them. I don't know where to hide because they are after my life to make Kashmir Files 2. Correct? Why am I not making it? If I was money minded, who in this world will stop it? Can all these big daddies of Bollywood, can they resist this temptation? वो तो अभी भी ये 4, वो 5, 6, 7 यही बना रहे हैं.
Correct.
उनके हीरो तो वही एक्टिंग बार बार कर करके ही पैसे कमा रहे हैं, right? Why am I doing? Why am going to a very risky zone of vaccine, right? Second thing is, I could have made this and released it in theater also, and made money out of this. I could have called it Kashmir Files Unreported. It's in theater and you make money. We have gone to OTT, and this is also on cost basis. It's not for profits. Please understand this. And this is, the people are sitting here next to me, they know it, right? So it's not for money. And the last but not the least, चलिए मैं आपको देता हूं, आपको मैं कहीं से भी कमा के 50 करोड़ रुपए देता हूं. कोई भी फिल्म मेकर, आप आ जाइए, आपको 50 करोड़ भी मिलेंगे, साथ में 2-3 फतवे भी मिलेंगे. आइए बनाइए फिल्म. Right? Then if somebody is willing to put his life at stake, his children's life, my children, I have taken the youth from them. They are not being able to go out. I can't go out anywhere with my children in one car. I'm imprisoned. Yasin Malik is imprisoned in Tihar. I'm imprisoned in my own doing. I have no bloody freedom. I can't write on Twitter the way I want to write. I can't say so many things. I want to go for some functions. I'm not allowed to go there. So I'm also imprisoned. I can't travel, move around freely anywhere. I go to London. I can't walk on Oxford Street. You want that kind of life? Am I doing it for money? For 32 years, these people have kept it under cover. One person has exposed. The only lamest charge they have come with is money. Say something else, right? Even if it is propaganda, even if it is the government is promoting it, even if I am doing it for money, even if it makes me the richest person in the world, somebody is benefiting. Somebody is being benefited. Yasin Malik is behind the bars. Kashmiri cause is all outside in the world. Let them show me one thing which they have done in which anybody else benefits. One thing. Show me one thing which terrorism industry has done which even one single human being has benefited out of it. They have taken lives. I am healing damaged people. This is the difference. Anyway, let's not get into that zone.
Perfect note to end this conversation right now. इससे आगे क्या कहें? Thank you so much, sir. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely. All the very, very best, sir. Good evening, this is Brass Tax. I'm Zaka Jacob coming to you live from Asia's biggest television news facility. Big day today in Parliament. It's going to be big for the next 3 days because the no confidence debate has started in Parliament today, and the very start itself was a bit of drama. That's because Congress leader Rahul Gandhi, who returned to the House yesterday, and was supposed to be the initial speaker for the India Alliance, starting off the no confidence debate proceedings, he, for some reason, chose not to be the first speaker, and instead he made way for Gaurav Gogoi, who was the mover of this motion, the mover of this no confidence motion, and he became the first speaker. Just before the BJP's first speaker could start the debate from the government side, a question was asked as to why Rahul Gandhi was not choosing to speak first, to which the response that we got from the Congress party was that he wants to speak only when the Prime Minister is present in the House. Well, that's likely to happen over the next 2 days, but first, the story.
हिंदू सभ्यता संस्कृति में बिलीव कर रही है, इसीलिए अलौकिका पंडिता की तरह जो पूरा किताब में लिखा हुआ है कि क्या क्या करना चाहिए भारतीय नारी को, उसका पूरा का पूरा पिक्चर सोनिया जी देंगे। उनको दो काम करना है, बेटे को सेट करना है।
आज आप लोग मणिपुर का नाम लेकर के, नॉर्थ ईस्ट का नाम लेकर के बार बार जो आप लोग बोल रहे हैं, काश आप लोग 2014 के पहले के परिस्थिति को याद करते तो